The Simpsons has shocked fans for years with its jaw-dropping accuracy in forecasting events, from political twists to mind-boggling technology and even global crises. Now, their most chilling predictions are surfacing for 2025, and they might be more real than we ever imagined. Did they foresee the rise of AI, a major economic shift, or something even more catastrophic? In this video, we'll dive into the wildest, most unbelievable predictions The Simpsons made for 2025. These aren't just quirky coincidences. Some say they're eerie warnings about the world we're stepping into. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to see might just leave you questioning what's next. Are you ready to see the insane predictions that could soon become reality? Let's get started. World War III predictions. It could be too far-fetched that The Simpsons predicted World War III, but at least it makes both fans and analysts draw relevance to the current tenor of worldly events. In one episode, Homer darkly jokes about World War III, and this sets off pandemonium about how eerily close this prediction feels to reality today. Although this kind of prediction was only meant for satire, still, people saw the approach it used for starting vivid when different conflicts and political standoffs appear from different parts of the world. The thoughts of World War III really no longer seem purely theoretical, with the rising tensions within Europe and Asia as well as the world. For all nations continue to flex their muscles as well as straining across alliances. The reason this prediction has such a strong undertone is because of the current state of global relations. The tension between superpowers globally, or rather, between global superpowers and emerging superpowers, has stretched their already flaky relationships so much that it seems like it will create a direct conflict very soon, especially given Russia's behavior with Ukraine. Added to the growing sense of unease are China's posturing in the South China Sea and its ambitions vis-à-vis Taiwan, with the United States and its allies closely watching the moves of Beijing. Adding these growing pressures to the other global conflicts ongoing at the moment calls to mind an unsettling similarity to the pre-World War situations, in which complicated alliances and power games ended in generalized war. A World War III would likely bring about incalculable devastation, since this time around, with modern warfare, weapons and technologies might be far more destructive than any two world wars could ever have been. The human and environmental costs may reach virtually unimaginable dimensions, given the nuclear arsenals, cyber warfare capabilities, and AI-driven weaponry at our disposal today. The Simpsons may have joked this up as a tongue-in-cheek possibility, but if the world really hangs in the balance, a decidedly dark what-if turns into a sobering reminder that the world is at war with itself. Coincidence does not best explain this cartoon's prediction of World War III, which agrees with a history of episodes eerily presaging real events. As debate swirls over the merits of such prophecies, The Simpsons serves as a quintessential reminder of why we must understand our connections to this world and why unchecked power struggles have serious implications. Buried within the humorous levity lies a far deeper warning. World peace is fragile, and even the most outrageous predictions might be closer to reality than we would like to fathom. The Simpsons might have seen it coming, as their next prediction zeroes in on a rivalry that could change the course of history: US and China conflict. The strained relationship between the US and China has ballooned into one of the world's most pursued and most significant geopolitical games in the making, and The Simpsons almost foresaw this war long before it hit today's height. In an episode on a conflict between these two powers, The Simpsons teased a scenario that is becoming all the more believable with time. The complex rivalry between the US and China runs deeper than a simple competition. In fact, it turns into clashes over trade, military presence in strategic areas, and governance differences. As China becomes more confident about growing its influence and the US remains determined to retain its global leadership, the whole world anxiously waits to see how this will play out. One of the major flashpoints of the relationship between the US and China would be the status of Taiwan. While Taiwan considers itself an independent nation, China claims it as its territory and has not ruled out military force to get it back under control. The US doesn't recognize Taiwan as a nation separate from China, but has promised to defend it if invaded. This delicate tightrope act has in recent years also become even more sensitive, with the U.S. conducting freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea and also ratcheting up military aid to Taiwan. Both steps drew stern warnings from Beijing, raising the fear that a miscalculation on either side could lead to open war. It also reflects this intensifying rivalry in the form of the trade war between the U.S. and China. Each has imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars in goods, straining global supply chains and raising consumer prices. Beyond tariffs, both are also growing more aggressive in terms of limiting transfers of technology and access to critical resources and markets. The latest move by the Biden administration to limit the export of semiconductors to China shows how deeply this trade war cuts into areas of national security and technological dominance. Perhaps economic warfare could be what would detonate far more serious confrontations between these two great economies for the Simpsons' prophecy of conflict to become realized. The battle in cyberspace and space assumes ever-increasing proportions, but the countries are advancing their capabilities in cyber espionage and space technology. Both have realized these are the new battlefields. As is currently the case between them, these two are currently engaged in cyber attacks, espionage, and both claim to accuse the other of aggressive measures and interference. Similarly, space has become a competitive ground, with China bolstering its space program with ambitions to match NASA's achievements and maybe even gain the upper hand. Such a view of The Simpsons' cartoonish look at the US-China conflict may tell the whole story, but real-life consequences of this rivalry may change the global alliances, economic stability, and the future aspects of global peace. Trump's comeback. Contours of speculation are swirling around the possibility that Donald Trump may return to the limelight of politics. Obviously, the scenario has already become real because The Simpsons hinted at it far ahead. As a show full of strangely correct prophecies, it depicted Trump's first presidency and now, some think, an intended second term as well. Hence, with Trump declaring his interest in the presidency in the next 2024 presidential election, all and sundry could only wonder what leadership would be like in his second term. The prediction of Simpsons over Trump as a divisive figure does indeed have the effect of staying longer, something that now resonates deeply with his support base and opposers alike. For those who remember the political climate of his previous term, even the prospect of his return is as likely to generate excitement as it is fear. One of the key points of Trump's comeback is his promise to energize what he refers to as the forgotten middle class and to address the economic grievances that many Americans still harbor. In his campaign rallies and speeches, Trump promised to make aggressive efforts to restore American manufacturing, bring inflation under control, and check immigration as a more protectionist approach. He even talked about pulling back on certain international alliances that he said were sucking the life from the American economy without sufficient value in return. This, then, is the policy direction that could be an influence towards a means of affecting the national, or by extension the global economy, as it carries over some of the themes portrayed in The Simpsons' depiction of his leadership style, one that's polarizing, assertive. In fact, Trump's comeback also reflects a future change in American politics, for instance. He continues to rally against what he labels the deep state and fake news. His rhetoric has managed to create a climate of political division, with many of his followers embracing conspiracy theories and skepticism toward traditional institutions. This populist message, a hallmark of his first campaign, will likely be a core aspect of his 2024 run. The Simpsons satirized these divisions long ago and portrayed Trump as someone who captures and complicates public opinion. His comeback has reinvigorated these themes, turning what some thought was a temporary political era into a lasting movement with deep roots in American culture. Ultimately, Trump's possible comeback greatly raises the question about the future of U.S. governance and its positioning on the world stage. He indicated during his first term his willingness to upend traditional political norms, and one wonders whether he would push the boundaries even further during a second term. It would threaten to upend the power balance inside the U.S. government by promising to reconstitute federal agencies, reduce bureaucratic oversight, and fill important positions with political loyalists. In terms of The Simpsons' prediction of his comeback, that is a funny one, but it also is reflective of very real anxieties and hopes for many in America as they consider whether Trump might return to the White House. AI takeover and job replacement. The idea of an AI takeover, the story of robots and intelligent machines replacing all human jobs, has for years both enthralled and terrified in equal measure, and The Simpsons once told such a future scenario by the most surprising means. In one episode, Homer loses his job to a robot, wherein lies the anxiety that appears in many people's minds about the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence. Today, AI transformation is becoming the norm around the world, where automation technology takes up roles previously thought uniquely human. From self-checkout stations to complex data analysis performed by algorithms, the change has begun, and analysts predict this only gets better and faster in years to come. Hence, an important question that has been projected is whether AI will take over so many jobs that large segments of employees in the workforce become obsolete. Of course, the most affected sectors are perhaps those in manufacturing, which are already saturated with many robots and automated systems. In fact, machines used in assembling production are now gobbling their way across many factories worldwide because they assemble products faster and less erratically than humans. The factor that increases productivity will definitely cut down costs, making it an attraction to business owners who seek efficiency. However, when artificial intelligence crosses the boundary of manufacturing and goes into service domains such as customer support and bookkeeping, or even providing legal advice, this raises the possibility of an all-around AI takeover. The Simpsons may have made a joke about the robot takeover, but many industries face this reality, with heated debates concerning the future of work and human labor. It is not an area reserved strictly for low-skilled labor, but in fact, the most complex high-skilled jobs can sometimes be assumed by the most sophisticated AI systems. To name an example, AI-driven diagnostic tools applied in healthcare, analyzing pictures from various medical procedures and arriving at diagnoses with great precision, questioning the role of radiologists and a multitude of other medical professionals. AI in finance. AI algorithms can determine risk levels and spot fraud, decision parameters that once belonged to financial experts. Therefore, these developments raise ethical and economic concerns for workers across a whole spectrum of fields threatened with replacement by more efficient and less costly machines. This has quite a bigger reality today about a robot replacing Homer in The Simpsons, and now people wonder which jobs might be next in line. Whereas AI pushes productivity and innovation forward, the concept of machines taking human roles has similarly thrown up thoughts of job retraining and new fields to take care of displaced workers. Governments and educational systems are starting to respond to the need for programming skills, as well as begin teaching people data analysis and how to maintain machines, looking into the future of work. Yet so many believe that retraining alone will not be enough to deal with the numbers of jobs that may potentially get lost. A vision of AI takeover, which would look more like a joke in The Simpsons, illustrates real challenges we have in ensuring that technological progress is going to make sense economically and provide job security. Properly managed, AI could complement human work. Left unchecked, it might lead to a future in which employment, as we know it, is altered drastically. Economic collapse and crisis. Perhaps the most terrifying of The Simpsons' dystopian glimpses is an economic collapse, and it has much in common with people's fears today concerning the stability of the global economy. In one episode, Lisa Simpson becomes president only to find that she inherits a ruined economy. The crisis is blamed on the previous administration, a fictional analog to Donald Trump's presidency. This puts out a warning regarding the fragility of the modern economies, of particular relevance in times of political and social upheaval. At these levels of debt and inflation, with the residual shock of the pandemic still being felt, Some economists fret that this trend is unavoidable, a catastrophe that The Simpsons comically illustrated long ago. While the causes may be more conventional than those behind previous economic crises, there are various reasons why another crisis is likely in the near future. Major power trade tensions between the US and China are disrupting supply chains and driving up costs worldwide, slowing growth further. Then there's the energy crisis in Europe and its associated geopolitical troubles, which is affecting economies in unforeseen ways against an unfamiliar backdrop. With inflation affecting everything from food to house, there's growing concern that protracted financial stress could lead to a more severe, generalized economic meltdown. In this fictional situation, The Simpsons inherit an economic mess, an issue people have real anxieties about, with today's leaders making unsustainable problems for others to inherit. Beyond the fiscal and political implications, the social impact of an economic collapse is another area of concern. If economies tank, then employment rates and social services and overall living conditions can be affected as well. Many would suffer from the loss of jobs, lower incomes, and a lower level of access to much-needed goods and services similar to past recessions. Financial burden imposed on families and even communities could increase income inequality, thereby placing even the most vulnerable population in more risk. All these issues resonate with how The Simpsons portrays an economy on shaky grounds, as the financial distress can prove to be quite socially disruptive and constrain individual well-being on an epic scale. To counter these impending threats, governments and financial institutions are taking prophylactic measures to underpin economic resilience. These steps include raising interest rates to fight the inflationary push, urging consumers to spend, and encouraging any innovation in green and tech sectors. But not a few experts say that even these steps may fall short of averting a severe crisis if deeper systemic problems begin to appear, such as issues with national debt or unsustainable resource consumption. For instance, the depiction of The Simpsons reminds us of the fragility of the economic system and how a day could go by without making even the slightest preparation for what awaits mankind. And when it happens, it will come in the name of an economic collapse. Just when the world seems financially fragile, an even graver threat lurks, challenging the very environment we depend on: environmental catastrophe. The thought of an environmental disaster so vividly portrayed in the Simpsons movie cuts close to our reality of today, in which environmental degradation and climate change issues hound us day and night. In the movie, Springfield's civic crisis is taken so seriously that the entire town is put under a large dome, encasing its citizens. All this because of excessive pollution in the town lake. This melodramatic but moving situation has become a warning with regard to the consequences of not paying heed to environmental concerns. At present, scientists and environmentalists are sounding other alarm bells at equally drastic results if there is no check on pollution, deforestation, or carbon emissions. Therefore, the situation that The Simpsons placed before their audience rings a chillingly realistic note. Environmental concerns have been at the forefront of international policy, with global warming, increasing sea levels, and frequent natural disasters. Instances of unpredictable weather patterns, wildfires, and floods are now frequent and mainly induced by human activities. Such events bring about the devastation of ecosystems as well as the threat of the human lifeblood, food supplies, and infrastructures. The vision of catastrophe in Springfield by The Simpsons was counted as a metaphor, and real disasters modern cities face: hurricanes, drought, and all crises these predict may turn much worse by 2025. Such events remind us that the health of our planet is about our safety and survival. Human and economic losses due to environmental disasters are immense. Natural disasters leave communities, displaced populations, and draw on resources to the very extreme. Hurricanes can obliterate the coast, wildfires can burn an entire town, and waters dry up and threaten not only agriculture but various kinds of food production. The Simpsons depicted Springfield under a dome. Such will be the end of human resilience against unstoppable forces. Even though a dome may well be science fiction, environmental disasters are becoming harder and harder to contain and deal with. Large amounts of resources are required. international cooperation often needed, and in many cases, it will take years to recover. To counter such eventualities, countries are getting better at environmental practices with renewable sources of energy, hopefully to minimize the fallout before it gets too late. Now, with green technology and conservation initiatives as the center stage of most countries' policies, even the international agreements regarding global warming, such as the Paris Climate Accord, are in place to control and minimize global rise in temperature. But within that process, the Simpsons scenario of environmental catastrophe is a cautionary tale, reminding how just words and policies are not enough. Collective action is now imperative and urgent if we are to avoid the realistic fiction scenario that befell Springfield, a scenario that could become all too real for us very soon if collective action is delayed. Music as mind control. In a recent episode of The Simpsons, the concept of music as a tool of mind control sounded strangely real, an interesting concept that sounds and rhythms may be performing much more than just entertainment. They may even be altering moods, thoughts, and even behavior. Once fancifully only considered for their depictions in science fiction movies, this notion is now being seriously considered by neuroscientists and tech innovators who explore how certain frequencies and musical compositions affect the brain. While music has long been an elixir that gives emotions life, newer studies have revealed it can change mental states in distinct ways. Some genres help improve concentration levels, lower stress levels, and even see things differently. The Simpsons' exaggeration might be for the sake of humor, but it reflects true scientific curiosity regarding how music could subtly or overtly affect the mind. As science advances, so does the basis for sound-based technologies that deliver targeted effects. Through music therapy, for example, related mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, and even PTSD can be treated. Reptivating rhythm, tone, or frequency can induce therapeutic patients to enter states of calm or actually process difficult emotions. Firms also experiment on the soundscape that could be used for productivity boosts and relaxation processes to stimulate our brain through sound stimuli. While not exactly mind control, the channeled application of music and sound to guide people's emotional and cognitive states is a demonstration of how powerful it can be. In a way, that is a more refined version of what The Simpsons hinted at: music as a medium to exert a profound influence on our inner world. Going even further into the idea of using music for power play is the advent of brainwave entertainment technologies that function on specific sound frequencies to synchronize brain waves. Such a technique finds its place among various forms of sound therapies in the form of binaural beats, where technology induces states of focus, creativity, or relaxation by synchronizing brain activity with specific mental states. In fact, some studies even indicate that audio-based technologies might even be applied in order to stimulate certain neural pathways as a way of training the brain within time. The ethical implications of such technology are a different matter because this could allow its misuse if the technology is directed toward manipulating or giving people undue influence. The Simpsons may have pushed this to a comical level, but the capability to use sound as a control or guide device for behavior in our control is gaining reality with the advancement of this science. As we're moving closer toward an age in which music and sound are scientifically engineered for a certain effect, it's important now to consider some of the desired benefits together with the risks. While music therapy promises several positive outcomes, it could unethically be used in places to subtly influence one's decisions, mood, or attention span. Imagine advertising with sounds meant to make advertisements seem more appealing, or workplaces employing this technology to ensure employees remain more focused. The Simpsons provided us with a comical view of this futuristic concept, but it provokes actual inquiry into the thin line between beneficial influence and outright control. As with all powerful tools, the ethical use of sound and music toward mind-altering purposes will need careful consideration as technology continues to advance. The Metaverse and Digital Art Revolution. The Metaverse, a digital art revolution hinted at by The Simpsons, has been swift in movement from fantasy into reality. The very existence that it envisioned, a more orchestrated virtual one that is surpassing fiction and blurring the distinctions between mundane and cyber life, was indeed possible with the help of tech giants like Meta, which have fast-forwarded bringing about virtual environments in which work, play, and social networking almost morph into truth concerning our flesh and blood environment. The evolvement of digital art, powered by NFTs and blockchain technology, has also seen changes in how people create, own, and experience art. The Simpsons also seems to foresee a future in which galleries and collections of art all shift online, letting users buy and display one-of-one items in virtual galleries. Thereby, the artistic expression is being molded and is outshifting from mere physical constraints into limitless digital spaces. What's especially alluring about the metaverse and digital art is its potential to be an interactive, personalized experience. In the metaverse, artists can create multi-dimensional worlds that viewers explore, and so this makes art a more active, immersive experience. Yet in this latest trend, it would push the creative bounds even further and make art respond to user interaction. Concept-wise, it seemed The Simpsons had hinted when they tried to imagine a future wherein the digital world was engagingly deep. However, growth in the metaverse poses challenges to different kinds of issues that arise from ownership in the digital world, intellectual property issues, and environmental impact. Besides, the metaverse concept increases the inequality in greater sections of society that will not enjoy equal access to such technologies. The mass movement of The Simpsons is one angle, but the reality is a call to balance the innovation with these ethics for a sustainable and inclusive digital future. Alternative energy sabotage. Indeed, this can be one of the shades of what seems all to be happening nowadays. The sabotage of alternative energy had long been foreseen by The Simpsons. Alternative energy is both vital and somewhat virulent today. In one episode, Lisa invented a solar-powered car. However, in her own world, it became sabotaged through a corporate-owned blimp that blocked the sun. This is a hilarious yet serious theme, how traditional energy industries and corporate interests can thwart forward movement on sustainable energy. But with governments and organizations pushing hard for greener solutions, opponents to the status quo continue to raise concerns about resistance to renewable energy. In fact, this is the exact tension in the real-world scenario between the fossil fuel industries and the renewable energy sector. Oil and gas have so much influence in markets as well as politics that clean energy policies and investments can't possibly thrive or may take centuries. And this is what The Simpsons correctly highlights in the dynamic, by showcasing to perhaps put the profits before health for vested interests. Of course, a sun-blocking blimp is fictional, but very real challenges are well represented by the episode in a still fossil-dominated world. It faces more than just competition. Regulatory and financial barriers cause some projects to be delayed, which, according to some voices, powerful lobbies want to maintain the status quo. Misinformation campaigns on the costs or efficiency of renewable energy are rampant and are often spread by groups tied to conventional energy sources. While The Simpsons did indeed dramatize the matter at hand, it cannot be ignored that in reality, clean energy's progress must face titans who might try to slow it down. And still, the transition to alternative energy is on the road to gaining momentum because the betterment of technology and the increasing awareness about climate change keep gaining popularity for solar and wind energy while consumers are going greener. As the satirical play from the producers of The Simpsons, this reminds the public that a clean future needs watchful and vocal participation. When it is funny to sabotage, we must bring it to the real scenario of challenges in clean energy and why we have to beat it for a healthier planet. From fierce energy wars to the latest tech, imagine if we could finally decode one of life's smallest mysteries. Baby translator device. An amusing depiction of the concept of a baby translator gadget, firstly used in The Simpsons, was able to capture the imagination of its audience through declaring that it was indeed feasible for technology to interpret baby talk for its cryptic wails. In the episode, Homer's half-brother successfully invents a gadget that lets him translate baby babbling into recognizable phrases, thus helping parents decipher the meaning behind their child's needs. While a light-hearted concept, It has sparked real-world innovations, given the fact that AI and machine learning paved the way for devices and apps aimed at decoding infant cries, making the fictional device closer to reality. Another is the Q-Bear, a device shown at CES in a demonstration using AI to analyze what's wrong with a baby based on the cry it hears, such as hunger, tiredness, or discomfort. By analyzing sound patterns, Q-Bear is seen to provide parents with insight via a connected app and also includes an integrated speaker that could be used to soothe the baby. That's a pretty big step towards the baby translator concept central to The Simpsons. Similarly, the Nani AI app offers cry analysis with feeding, sleeping, and developmental milestones tracking, so it is probably one of the most comprehensive apps for a first-time parent. Functions that allow baby monitoring and care promotion make Nani work to decrease the stressful feeling of parents by offering the interpretation of the child's needs, or, in other words, rendering the Simpsons' fictional device into reality. However, experts say these tools must supplement, not supplant, parental intuition. Babies convey messages in facial expressions and movements and sounds for which the computer truly cannot account. The notion of the baby translator in The Simpsons may seem one step too slight for entertainment's sake, but the real-life quest for such technology does suggest parents want anything that can translate for them among those early mysteries of parenthood combined with attentive care. Thanks for watching. Which Simpsons prediction surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the future, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an update. And if you're ready for more mind-blowing content, click the next video shown on your screen now. See you there.